She was too dangerous to stay. Until he needed her protection. The Galactic Council chambers echoed with nervous whispers as Admiral Zethkar adjusted his ceremonial robes. The massive holographic displays showed security footage that made even the most battle-hardened warriors shift uncomfortably in their seats. On screen, a single human female moved through a Krillian battle station like death incarnate, her plasma rifle singing its deadly song as she carved through elite troops as if they were made of paper. Dr. Elena Vasquez didn't look particularly dangerous, sitting in the defendant's chair. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her brown eyes remained calm despite the dozens of alien species staring at her with mixtures of fear and fascination. She wore standard prisoner garments, but somehow managed to look dignified even in the rough gray fabric. The scars on her hands and forearms told stories of countless battles, but her expression remained serene. "The charges against Dr. Vasquez are severe," announced Counselor Vextani, her crystalline voice ringing through the chamber. The Altarian's blue skin shimmered as she spoke, and her forearms gestured elegantly toward the evidence displays. Destruction of 3 military installations, elimination of over 2,000 enemy combatants, and the unauthorized liberation of 47 prison colonies across 12 star systems. Elena finally spoke, her voice carrying a slight accent from her home world. Unauthorized by whom? Those people were enslaved, tortured, and murdered. Someone had to act when the council chose to look away. Her words were measured. But there was steel beneath the calm tone. A ripple of unease passed through the assembled representatives. The truth stung because it was accurate. The council had been aware of the Krillian Empire's atrocities for years, but had chosen political stability over justice. Then this human woman had appeared, seemingly from nowhere, and had begun systematically dismantling their operation with surgical precision. "Dr. Vasquez," interrupted Senator Cole Thrawn, his reptilian features twisted in what might have been concern. "Your actions, while perhaps morally justified, have destabilized an entire sector. The Krillians are demanding your execution. They've threatened to withdraw from the peace accords if we don't comply." Elena's laugh was bitter. "Peace accords built on the suffering of innocents aren't worth the documents they're written on. But I understand your position. Politics matter more than lives in this chamber." The truth was more complicated than Elena let on. She had once been the Council's most trusted operative, their secret weapon against threats too dangerous for conventional forces. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been their ace in the hole, a human whose tactical brilliance and fighting capabilities had saved countless worlds. But that was before she discovered what the Council was willing to ignore for the sake of stability. Admiral Zethkar cleared his throat, his purple skin darkening with embarrassment. "Dr. Vasquez, your service record is impressive. 43 successful missions, 16 worlds saved from extinction, and not a single civilian casualty attributed to your actions. But your recent activities have made you a liability we cannot afford." "A liability?" Elena repeated, tasting the words. "Is that what we call someone who refuses to stand by while children are sold into slavery?" The chamber fell silent. Everyone present had seen the classified reports from the Krillian facilities Elena had destroyed. The images of the prison colonies, the medical experiments, the mass graves. The Council had debated intervention for months, while more beings suffered and died. Counselor Vextani's voice carried a note of genuine regret when she spoke again. "The decision has been made. Dr. Elena Vasquez, you are hereby exiled from all Council territories. Any vessel or station that provides you aid or shelter will face immediate sanctions. You have 24 hours to leave Council space." Elena stood slowly, her movements fluid despite the energy restraints around her wrists. "I understand. You're choosing fear over justice, and that's your right. But remember this moment when the consequences come calling." She paused, looking directly at Admiral Zethkar. "And they will come calling." The Admiral avoided her gaze. He had known Elena for 7 years, had seen her pull off miracles that saved his own homeworld. The guilt of this decision would haunt him, but the political reality was inescapable. The Krillians held too much power, controlled too many trade routes. War was not an option. As the security detail led Elena away, she turned back one final time. "Admiral, when you need someone who can do what others won't, who can go where others can't, remember that you're sending her away. Remember that choice." The heavy doors closed behind her with a finality that seemed to echo through the chamber. Elena Vasquez, the Council's most effective operative, their most dangerous weapon, was now their enemy by decree. The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. In her detention cell, Elena sat quietly on the narrow bed and began planning. Exile didn't mean retirement, and there were still people who needed help. She had spent years learning every secret the Council kept, every hidden passage and forgotten protocol. They thought they were casting her out, but they were actually setting her free. The guard who brought her meal was a young Altarian named Sector, barely out of training. He tried to avoid eye contact, but Elena's voice stopped him at the door. "Your sister lives on Kepler 442b, doesn't she?" she asked quietly. The guard froze. "How did you?" "Because I saved her colony 3 years ago when the Void Pirates attacked. I remember every face, every family I helped protect." Elena's voice was gentle but firm. "Tell her Elena says hello. Tell her that some fights are worth the cost." 20 hours later, Elena stood in the docking bay beside a small, unmarked ship that Admiral Zethkar had provided. It was fast, well-armed, and equipped with stealth capabilities. The Admiral's final gift to the woman he was betraying. "The ship is yours," he said quietly, unable to meet her eyes. "Full fuel, supplies for 6 months, and a complete medical bay. It's the least I can do." Elena placed a hand on his shoulder. "Thank you, Zeth. You're a good man caught in a bad situation." "I don't blame you for this choice. I should have fought harder for you," he admitted. "The Council is making a mistake." "Maybe. Or maybe this is exactly what was supposed to happen." Elena climbed into her ship and turned back one final time. "Take care of yourself, Admiral, and watch the borders. Something's coming, and you're going to need all the help you can get." As her ship disappeared into the star-filled void, Admiral Zethkar felt a chill run down his spine. Elena Vasquez had never been wrong about threats before. He could only hope that this time would be different. In the depths of space, Elena set course for the Rim territories where the Council's authority was weak and justice was often a luxury few could afford. She had work to do, people to help, and a galaxy to protect whether the Council wanted her help or not. The dangerous woman they had exiled was now truly free, and that freedom would soon prove to be exactly what the galaxy needed most. She was too dangerous to stay. Until he needed her protection. The Rim territories were exactly as Elena remembered them. Lawless, dangerous, and full of people who had nowhere else to go. Her ship, which she had named the Phoenix for its ability to rise from the ashes of her former life, drifted silently through the asteroid field that housed Port Nowhere, the most notorious haven for smugglers, refugees, and outcasts in this sector. Elena had spent the last 6 months building a new life among the forgotten and the desperate. Word of her exile had spread quickly through the criminal underground, but so had stories of her actions against the Krillians. To the downtrodden beings scraping out an existence on the galaxy's edge, she wasn't a dangerous exile, she was a hero. The communication array in her ship crackled to life, interrupting her thoughts. The voice that emerged was heavily encrypted, but Elena recognized it immediately, despite the distortion. "Phoenix, this is Admiral Zethkar. We need to talk. Privately. Immediately." Elena's blood ran cold. In 6 months, the Admiral had never once attempted contact. For him to reach out now, using illegal channels and encryption that could cost him his career, meant something catastrophic was happening. She guided the Phoenix to a small moon 3 systems away from Port Nowhere, a dead rock that offered complete privacy. Zethkar's personal shuttle was already waiting when she arrived, its sleek council design looking alien against the barren landscape. The Admiral looked like he had aged years in the 6 months since Elena's exile. His purple skin was pale, almost gray, and his normally perfect uniform was wrinkled. When he climbed out of his shuttle, his movements were those of a man carrying an enormous burden. "Elena, thank you for coming," he said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "You look terrible," she replied, studying his face with concern. "What's happened?" Zethkar activated a portable shield generator, ensuring their conversation would remain private even from their own ship's recording systems. 3 weeks ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected something massive moving through the void between galaxies. Something that shouldn't exist. Elena felt her tactical instincts engage automatically. How massive? Larger than anything we've ever seen. The preliminary scans suggest a structure over 2,000 kilometers long. Zethkar pulled out a data pad and handed it to Elena. But it's not just the size that has us terrified. It's the technology. The images on the data pad made Elena's breath catch in her throat. The structure was clearly artificial, but its design was unlike anything in the known galaxy. Strange geometries twisted through space in patterns that seemed to hurt the eyes to follow. The hull appeared to be made of some dark material that absorbed sensor scans, making detailed analysis nearly impossible. It appeared suddenly, no warning, no gradual approach from intergalactic space. One moment our sensors showed empty void, the next moment this thing was there. Zethkar's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Elena, it's heading straight for the core worlds. At its current speed, it will reach council space in 4 weeks." Elena studied the data more carefully, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to process the information faster than most beings. These energy readings. Zeth, whatever's powering this thing is beyond our understanding. The weapon signatures alone suggest they could glass entire planets from orbit. "It gets worse," the Admiral continued. "We've tried to establish communication. Every frequency, every protocol in our databases. Nothing. But 3 days ago, it responded to one of our transmissions." He activated another file on the datapad. The message was simple, transmitted in perfect galactic standard, but the voice that spoke the words was unlike anything Elena had ever heard. It was somehow both mechanical and organic, ancient and timeless. "Surrender or be cleansed. You have corrupted this galaxy long enough. Prepare for judgment." Elena looked up from the pad, her mind already racing through possibilities. "Any idea who they are? Where they came from?" "None. But Elena, there's more. After that transmission, they demonstrated their capabilities." Zethkar's hands shook slightly as he activated another file. "They targeted the Krillian military installation at Sigma Draconis, the one you destroyed 2 years ago." Elena remembered the installation well. It had been rebuilt bigger and stronger than before, housing over 50,000 troops and serving as a major staging ground for Krillian expansion into the outer territories. The recording showed the alien vessel approaching the massive space station. No visible weapons fired, no energy beams or missiles. Instead, the station simply began to dissolve, as if its very atoms were being torn apart and scattered to the solar winds. In less than 30 seconds, 50,000 beings and their fortress were reduced to nothing but glittering dust. "My God," Elena whispered. "How many survivors?" "None. Not even escape pods. They dissolved everything organic and inorganic alike." Zethkar sat heavily on a nearby rock. "Elena, the Council is in complete panic. Half the member worlds are calling for immediate surrender. The other half want to mount a defense that we know will be useless. Elena handed back the datapad and began pacing, her mind working through the tactical implications. What do you need from me, Zeth? Because you didn't risk your career and break exile protocols just to show me how screwed the galaxy is. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment before speaking. The Council wants to negotiate with them. They think if they can find the right terms, the right concessions, maybe these beings will spare the core worlds. And you think that's naive? I think they're not interested in negotiation. That message wasn't an opening for dialogue. It was a death sentence with a timer attached. Zethkar looked directly at Elena. But there might be another option. Elena stopped pacing. I'm listening. During your time with Council Intelligence, you had access to the archives, the deepest, most classified files about ancient civilizations, lost technologies, forgotten wars. His voice carried a note of desperate hope. Do you remember the predecessor sites? Elena's blood chilled. The predecessor sites were legendary even among the intelligence community, ruins scattered across the galaxy that predated every known civilization by millions of years. The technology found there was so advanced that most of it was completely incomprehensible. Council policy was to quarantine the sites and forbid research, deeming them too dangerous to explore. You think this invasion force is connected to the predecessors? The technology matches some of the readings we've gotten from the quarantined sites, but more importantly, there are indications that the predecessors faced a similar threat and found a way to stop it. Zethkar pulled up another file. Site Omega-7, deep in the neutral zone. The initial survey team found something before the site was sealed, a facility that they described as a final weapon in their reports. Elena felt pieces clicking together in her mind. Let me guess. The site is sealed under Council authority, surrounded by automated defenses and protected by treaties that make approaching it an act of war. Exactly. But Elena, if there's even a chance that the predecessors left behind something that could help us, you need someone who can get in and out without official sanction, someone who doesn't exist in Council records anymore. Elena completed his thought. You need the dangerous exile you cast out 6 months ago. Zethkar nodded miserably. I know it's asking a lot. I know we have no right to ask anything of you after what the Council did. But Elena, if we're right about this connection, you might be the only person who can save the galaxy. Elena looked up at the stars visible through the thin atmosphere of the dead moon. 6 months ago, these same people had called her too dangerous to trust. Now they needed exactly that danger to protect them. The site is 3 weeks away from here if I push the Phoenix hard. That gives me 1 week to explore whatever's down there before your alien friends arrive. She turned back to the Admiral. What guarantee do I have that the Council won't try to arrest me the moment I return with whatever I find? None, Zethkar admitted. But Elena, if we don't stop these beings, there won't be a Council left to arrest anyone. Elena considered her options. The smart choice would be to take her ship and run for the far rim, as far from the invasion as possible. Let the Council reap what they had sown with their politics and compromises. But that would mean abandoning billions of innocent beings to whatever cleansing the aliens had planned. Send me everything you have on Site Omega-7, she finally said. And Zeth, if I do this, it's not for the Council. It's for all the people they're supposed to protect, but usually ignore. The Admiral's relief was visible. Thank you, Elena. I know it's a desperate plan. The best plans usually are, Elena replied with a grim smile. Just remember, if I find something useful down there, you're going to have to convince a panicked Council to trust the judgment of the woman they exiled as too dangerous to keep around. As they prepared to leave the barren moon, Elena couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The galaxy's greatest threat was coming, and their only hope lay with the one person they had deemed too dangerous to trust. Soon, the Council would learn the difference between dangerous and necessary. The Phoenix fired its engines and disappeared into the void, carrying Elena toward a predecessor site that might hold the key to survival. Behind her, Admiral Zethkar's shuttle headed back toward the core worlds, where impossible decisions awaited and time was running out. She was too dangerous to stay. Until he needed her protection site. Omega-7 hung in space like a massive geometric nightmare, its crystalline structure defying conventional physics as it twisted through dimensions that shouldn't exist. Elena's ship approached the predecessor facility slowly, every sensor screaming warnings about energy readings that made no logical sense. The automated Council defenses had been surprisingly easy to bypass. After 6 months in the Rim territories, Elena's skills at avoiding unwanted attention had only grown sharper. The defensive satellites assumed any approaching ship would be large and official, not a small vessel using smuggler routes and running silent. "Phoenix to site control," Elena transmitted on an open channel, knowing no one would respond from the long-dead facility. Beginning approach to Docking Station 7. The pretense of normal procedure helped calm her nerves as she guided her ship toward the alien structure. The docking mechanism accepted the Phoenix with smooth precision, technology millions of years old, still functioning perfectly. As the airlock cycled, Elena checked her equipment one final time. Her plasma rifle hung at her side, though she doubted conventional weapons would be useful here. More important were the scanning devices and the portable translation matrix she had acquired during her exile. The corridor beyond the airlock was vast, its walls covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. The air was breathable but carried a strange metallic taste that made Elena's enhanced senses recoil. Emergency lighting provided a dim purple glow that cast dancing shadows in directions that defied geometry. Elena had studied every available file on predecessor technology during her journey here. The beings who built these sites had possessed science so advanced that it appeared magical to current galactic civilization. They had vanished millions of years ago, leaving behind only these mysterious ruins and strict warnings never to interfere with their technology. The first chamber Elena entered contained what appeared to be a holographic archive. As she approached, the ancient systems detected her presence and activated, filling the air with images of a galaxy in chaos. She watched in fascination as the historical record played out before her. The images showed massive, dark vessels appearing throughout the galaxy, their design identical to the threat currently approaching Council space. These were the Devourers, beings from beyond the galactic rim who emerged every few million years to cleanse civilizations they deemed unworthy. They possessed technology that could unmake matter itself, turning entire worlds into cosmic dust. Elena watched as primitive versions of current galactic species fought desperately against the invasion. The Devourers were merciless, systematic, and seemingly unstoppable. Planet after planet fell to their strange weapons until only scattered refugees remained. But the predecessors had found an answer. The hologram shifted, showing the construction of massive facilities like the one Elena now stood in. The predecessors had discovered that the Devourers' power came from their ability to manipulate fundamental forces at a quantum level. To defeat them required weapons that operated on the same principles. "Neural interface detected," announced a voice in perfect galactic standard. The facility's AI had been monitoring Elena's reactions, translating its message into her language. "Authorized genetic markers confirmed. Access to final protocol granted." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Somehow, the ancient facility recognized something in her DNA, something that marked her as worthy of accessing their ultimate weapon. She suspected it had to do with humanity's unique neural structure, their ability to adapt and interface with alien technology in ways other species couldn't. The chamber around her transformed, walls sliding away to reveal a space so vast that the far reaches disappeared into darkness. In the center stood a device that hurt to look at directly, a fusion of organic and mechanical components that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The consciousness weapon, the AI explained as Elena approached, designed to target the quantum coherence fields that grant the Devourers their power. When activated, it will sever their connection to the forces they manipulate, rendering their weapons inert. Elena studied the device carefully. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, pulsing with energies that made her enhanced senses sing with warnings. "What's the cost of activation?" she asked, recognizing that such power always came with a price. "Total neural integration required. Consciousness of the operator will be distributed across galactic quantum networks to guide the weapon's targeting. Survival probability, 0. The simple statement hung in the air like a death sentence. To save the galaxy, someone would have to sacrifice their life, their very consciousness, to power the weapon. Elena understood now why the predecessors had built multiple sites. It would take multiple sacrifices to stop a full Devourer invasion. "How long do I have to make this decision?" Elena asked. "Devourer fleet will reach optimal firing position in 47 hours, the AI responded. "Consciousness weapon requires 6 hours to charge once activated." Elena slumped against a nearby console, the weight of the choice crushing down on her. She could activate the weapon now, save billions of lives, and ensure the Devourers never threatened the galaxy again. But it would mean her death, and there was no guarantee the Council would even understand what she had done for them. Her communicator chimed with an incoming message from Admiral Zeth Carr. His transmission was heavily encrypted and clearly desperate. "Elena, the Devourer fleet has accelerated. They'll reach the core worlds in 2 days instead of 4. The Council is in complete chaos. 3 member worlds have already surrendered unconditionally. We need whatever you found, and we need it now." Elena closed her eyes and made her decision. She opened a channel back to the Admiral. "Zeth, I've found something, but you're not going to like it. The predecessors left behind a weapon that can stop the Devourers, but activating it requires a sacrifice." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "It needs someone to volunteer their consciousness to guide the targeting systems." The silence that followed stretched for several minutes before Zeth Carr's response came through. "Elena, there has to be another way. We can't ask someone to—" "You're not asking," Elena interrupted. "I'm volunteering. This is what needs to happen, Zeth. Send me the real-time coordinates of the Devourer fleet. I need to begin the charging sequence." "Elena, please, let us find another solution. Give us time to study the technology. Maybe we can find a way to modify it." Elena looked at the ancient weapon humming with barely contained power. "There's no time. In 47 hours, they'll be in range to start glassing your worlds. In 6 hours, I can make sure that never happens." She began moving toward the neural interface crown that hung suspended above the weapon's central column. The device sensed her approach and began to descend, its organic components shifting to match her human neurology. "Elena, wait!" Zeth Carr's voice carried pure desperation now. "At least let me tell the Council what you're about to do. Let them know that the dangerous exile they cast out is saving their lives." Elena smiled sadly as she reached for the interface crown. "Tell them afterwards if you want. But Zeth, make sure they remember this moment. Remember that when they called someone too dangerous to trust, they were really saying she was too committed to justice to control. Elena, please. Take care of yourself, Admiral. Make sure the galaxy learns from this. Make sure they remember that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the only one willing to do what's necessary." Elena placed the neural crown on her head, and immediately her consciousness began to expand. She could feel the weapon's systems integrating with her mind, her human adaptability allowing her to bridge the gap between organic thought and predecessor technology in ways no other species could manage. Through the weapon's sensors, she could perceive the Devourer fleet approaching the galactic rim. Massive dark vessels that existed partially outside normal space-time. Their crews confident in their technological superiority and their divine right to judge and cleanse lesser civilizations. They had no idea what was coming. Elena felt her individual consciousness beginning to dissolve as the weapon drew her neural patterns into its quantum matrices. But with her last coherent thought, she smiled. The dangerous woman they had exiled was about to save them all, and she would do it on her own terms. The consciousness weapon fired, its invisible pulse racing across the galaxy at speeds that transcended light itself. Elena's awareness rode with it, guiding its targeting, ensuring perfect accuracy. One by one, the Devourer vessels lost their connection to the quantum forces that powered them. Their mighty weapons failed, their dimensional drives collapsed, and their ships became nothing more than elaborate metal coffins drifting in the void. In the council chambers, alarms suddenly fell silent. Long-range sensors showed the Devourer fleet dead in space, their massive vessels dark and powerless. Admiral Zethkar stood before the assembled representatives with tears streaming down his face. "The threat has been neutralized," he announced. "The woman we exiled as too dangerous to trust has saved us all. Dr. Elena Vasquez died to protect the galaxy that cast her out." The chamber erupted in chaos as the full implications sank in. They had been saved by the very person they had betrayed, protected by the dangerous exile they had feared. On Site Omega-7, the ancient weapon powered down slowly, its purpose fulfilled. In its quantum matrices, fragments of Elena's consciousness lingered, watching over a galaxy that would finally learn the difference between dangerous and necessary. The woman who had been too dangerous to stay had become exactly what the galaxy needed most, a protector who would sacrifice everything to defend those who couldn't defend themselves. The Council would remember this day, and perhaps they would learn to value justice over politics, courage over compromise. Elena's sacrifice had saved more than lives. It had saved the soul of galactic civilization itself.